Nice hat. What's up?
You like it, man?
Yeah,
I
I
got.
might I might have 3 or 12 of them. Hold on,
I
hold
got
on.
a.
What do you have as a shirt? What do we got there?
I don't know. What year was this? NSCA? What year was that? I don't know.
Like I'm with it, man. Pick every. Well, actually, I had that long run when I was working with Woodway, where
Yeah.
I would go to NSCA every year. And when you go to a conference with Woodway, it's a good thing. It's a good time.
Well, I say that conference is probably, as far as the group, is probably the most fun. NATA, because I'm an athletic trainer, is kind of like khakis and tucked in polos and very prim and proper. NSCA is a blast, you know, and
Yeah.
CPTA is a little more prim and proper, but they get loose too. So I guess it depends on who you're hanging with.
Now, what is that? What is CPTA?
Isn't it CPTA the what's
For
C
what? So no, it's not because I don't know what it is. What is it? Can you hear me? All right, you come back. We'll come back in. All right, I can hear you now, I think.
All right, all right.
Yeah, yeah. So what you were saying? What is CPTA
Well, what's the combined sections meeting? What's the
for
combined
for
for
physical
PT?
therapy?
Yeah,
Yeah, CSM.
CSM. That's it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a fun
yeah,
one too. Yeah.
yeah. So let's see. I think the last NATA conference I went to was 2006 in Atlanta. Um, I have not really had an urge to go, but I would go if it was in like a place that I wanted to go, and because
Yeah.
I still keep my credits. Never been to a CSM, I don't think.
No, that one's good. I like CSM. I mean, their floor and their vendor floor is really fun, and that's got a great group. And Rock Tape does a really big thing at CSM. So
Yeah.
we have like a keg after hours. Everyone gets a red Rock Tape solo cup, and we have a
Hmm.
blast at that one.
Yeah,
So that's good.
that sounds very consistent with healthcare. That's great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
right.
I same thing with CSM. I would go if it was like convenient and in a place that I wanted to go because I don't know that the coursework there is at least consistent with the stuff that I'm looking for. How about that? Is that
Well,
politically correct enough? Am I okay to say that? Am I good?
I don't know. I think you pissed off. I don't know. I think we have Ali on here. I don't know who you pissed off, but you pissed off somebody, I'm sure.
All right, well that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, I'm sure you do as well. You get a lot of um, probably get a lot of calls for ATCs that for jobs, and they're still out there. I just don't know that many. I mean, my top group are all working. Now, my guys in Canada, who would be, they'd be good fits for some high level stuff in the States. Um, and they're it's called a CAT there. They're called athletic therapists.
Hmm.
Um, but after that, man, I don't know too many. And then they start asking for PTATCs, and I don't know if they're just thinking like they want me to be like, well, I'm interested when that's I'm not out of line. Like those aren't the type of opportunities I'm looking for at this time. But like so when you got your ATC, you probably did it the same way I did. Like you couldn't get a degree in athletic training, right? Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
called a internship.
Yeah, that was the old school. So I'm from the early '90s. With athletic training. So it was physical education major with the athletic training emphasis, and basically
Yes.
did 1,800 hours. I
Yep.
really took only two classes. The rest was on your own, and you got thrown to the wolves. Right, you're out there with the team and figure it out, man, and read a lot and figure it out. Then go sit for the board of certification exam and hope for the best. Today, they hold your hand the whole way through. The curriculum is so tight. I mean,
Yeah.
being a program director for a university, they are just every single inkling. Once you have program affiliation and once you have the certification proper, you have to follow the letter of the law. These kids can't work over 20 hours. They can't lift over 40 pounds. I got
40,
busted, dude.
40
I got
pounds.
busted. Literally got busted by the committee saying your freshman students are lifting water coolers that are over 40 pounds. I'm like, fucking A, they are, man. It's time to bust your ass,
Wow,
man.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
So I got
what
good things on myself.
I had no idea any of that. So when I went so I graduated undergrad in '97. So I'm not that far behind you. There was two routes you could do to become an athletic trainer. You could do internship, which I did,
Hmm.
or like basically your bachelor's degree, and that's kind of like where you're like the program, that are out there. Like that's the only option. Because I think a year or two after that, the internship route went away,
Yeah.
and basically what that has caused, in my mind, is a lot of really good young students are choosing PT instead of ATC because you really can't do both like I did.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, I might have been a little ahead, for age. So, and I went right into physical therapy school, and I could have gone to physical therapy school for 2 years, but I went to a 3-year program because I had off in the summers. It was just a good deal. But I still finished with both when I was 22 or 23. But now I think people see there's two sides to this. They're seeing that you can kind of become, you can kind of do some really cool things as a PT that is a little bit harder to do as an ATC since you can't really work in most states in the real world as an
Hmm.
ATC. It doesn't mean you're not qualified to work. That's just the way the rules are. Um, but then they're like, well, I want to get into pro sport. I'm like, well,
Right.
good luck. Good luck.
Right.
Yeah, there are especially in the NBA, NFL. I believe is a rule you have to have one PT, but you're certainly going to be ahead if you're a PT ATC.
Hmm.
But there's just not that many out there. Like they're all
Yeah.
older. They're older folks who don't want to go into sport, or they have family and lives, etc. But the opportunity just doesn't exist. Like you can't do it. It doesn't work. Like you have to basically get
Yeah.
a master's in athletic training and then go back to PT school. Next thing you know, you're 34 years of age.
Yeah, totally. And I think the jobs now are like I run a program called Kreiswirth Sports Medicine, right? So I provide athletic trainers to all these jujitsu tournaments as much as I can. So those are the jobs. A lot of these athletic trainers are working, they're finding high school jobs or college jobs, and then they bust their ass on the weekends for these 2-day basketball, soccer, jujitsu tournaments. We see a lot of athletic trainers picking up side work. Now we have I think it's AB5, which is a clause here I'm sorry, in California saying you can't be an independent contractor without being an employee. So we have some issues to work through here. But you know, as there's like a pecking order, right, Charlie? It's like medical doctor, chiropractor, physical therapist, athletic trainer, massage therapist, personal trainer. That's the way I kind of see it. And everybody wants to be better. So a kid who goes into athletic trainer says, I'm going to be an athletic trainer. I'll go through the steps, but I really want to get to PT, or I really want to get to DC, or I really want to go pre-med, and then you have a physical therapist who never got athletic training, like, I really want to work with sport. I want to come work jujitsu with me, but they don't have the acute care side, right? So it's kind of like everyone wants both sides,
Yeah, there's a lot of end arounds for people to kind of have legitimate credentials. There's ways for PTs to go through on field and acute care beyond a Red Cross first aid, which is not nothing. That's not to be scoffed at. But as far as that pecking order, I mean that's just the perception of people. I don't think you're wrong, but it's that I see it a lot in for my staff in Canada, where right now one of them is in significant uh, process, with a pro sport team here, and in Canada. So look, in my mind, the Canadian and like I think there's only like 6 or 7 schools in all of Canada. Their entry level is the same as American entry level. When you finish, you're the and there's reciprocity. Like they can just come, and I'm sure you have to do some kind of paperwork or whatever. However, in Canada, the athletic therapists basically work as PTs, and the actual manpower of what in Canada is called physiotherapists is the same. There's just not that many. Like there's chiros, then they have what's called kinesiologists, which are what we call personal trainers that want to be therapists, and they're similarly atrocious. So, but they're actually allowed. It's not like they just do it and get away with it like they do in America. They're it's a little bit different, and there's just not as much physical therapists because the athletic trainers or the athletic therapists they work. So he's going through the interview process, and he'll come back and tell me he's like they were shocked that I deal with post surgeries, and I'm like yeah because if you're an athletic trainer in America and you don't work probably at a major university, you're probably never gonna see because if you're in pro sport nobody's doing it, they're just getting farmed out most of the time, or maybe it is if it's off season. Then certainly I think the ATCs would be handling those things if the player stays in town. But unless you're at a big time major Division I university, you're probably not going to get that opportunity. We I was explaining to him because it's just not a conversation we never really had. And again, in my mind, this is a lot. They're the same. And I would even go on to say that for and now I'm allowed to say this because I went through both in American train. It, at the time that you graduate PT school and the time that you graduate as an athletic trainer, I find them to be the same for an orthopedic healthy population. I don't find them to be any different from an entry level education. So now you got these three things. You got the American athletic trainer, the Canadian athletic therapist, and the physical therapist. The Canadian and the physical therapist, they get exposed to workplaces that allow them to get experience, make mistakes, figure things out. Whereas those jobs for an American athletic trainer are like zero. They're like few and far between. So they wind up doing other things that are not unimportant, but dare I say, not as skilled.
Right.
And they're usually similarly overworked, understaffed. You get one kid who's handling a whole high school, and he's going to get screamed at if there's no water. Hopefully he doesn't weigh more than 40 pounds.
Yeah, right.
Versus cultivating how to do manual therapy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden 6-7 years later, that gap, in my opinion, that starts neck and neck is just staggering.
Yeah.
So it's but I think for physiotherapists to become there are courses that are part of the CSM. I don't have it. I don't really get into that stuff. But if you're a sports certified specialist through the APTA, you have to take some kind of course that I still don't think puts you on par with an athletic trainer because basically you're taking a course versus
Right.
1,500,
Yeah.
2,500 hours.
Cairo's the same way, right? Cairo has their diplomatic of sports medicine, which is
I
a
have no
course.
idea. Yeah, I have no idea what. And
Well,
I don't
here's
mean
the thing.
I don't
Here's the
mean to
thing.
be dismissive. I just don't have a clue
No,
what they're
no.
about. Yeah.
I call athletic trainers a jack of all trades, master of none. You have to learn how to auscultate lung sounds and tape an ankle. Like, how wide can we get the idea of athletic training? It's so wide, right? Acute care, long-term care, learning about palliative care. We're trying to keep up, right? So athletic training is trying to keep up with the doctor of physical therapy. We're now a master's of athletic training, right? So we're no longer an undergraduate program. So accreditation says it is a master's of athletic training. Soon there are some programs that are doctors of athletic training, right?
Yeah.
But they're not the
Clinical.
the process. Yeah.
The clinical
Yeah.
doctorate, not a
The
PhD.
clinical. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Well, look,
only
that's
2 or 3 PhDs.
I just find that look, an ATC can always get a PhD like what you did. It's just not. It's in something similar. It's not a my undergrad is like yours. My undergrad was exercise and sports science. I had a minor in biology and a minor in athletic training. So I had to take summer classes to prove to the NATA that I did everything that I would have done if I went to like another school that had the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
That was called the internship route. So that allowed me to then get my ATC, but also be pre-med and go right to PT school. As we were saying before, you can't do that. So now
Right.
you've got people that are underskilled. Like if you're only an ATC and you're 6, 7 years experience and you're ready to move on to something bigger, if you're not in major Division 1, there's nothing there. Like you
Well, let
now,
me
now
ask you this.
you could go to high school and at least in this part of the country, if the athletic trainer at the high school is in the teacher's track, I believe instead of working whatever 7 to 3 or whatever, you work 3 to 8. You're on the same, and then you can get tenure. If you're there for 25 years, you're nice. Yeah, you're doing some good. You're doing some good things, even if you're not doing rehab. And it kind of cultivates a cult culture of
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So
yeah.
you're in continuing education like I am, right? What we see, the continuing education boom is so huge that people are using it for university, right? So if they even go through an undergraduate or a graduate program, they learn only so much and their clinical skills aren't that great yet. People are, I mean, you're seeing students come to take your course who have not finished their graduate experience yet, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
learning very, very, very amplified stuff. We have people spending $50,000 a year or more on continuing education, and they don't even have a base of knowledge, right? So,
I would
what do you think
tell.
about that?
I think a lot. Yeah, I can think of and 2 out of the 3 are still I consider them my kids, even though they're not much younger than me. um, I don't know if it was one of my courses or something else, but we were all talking, and there was others. They were going to Cairo school, and they were just so angry that they were they knew what they were learning was not contemporary. And I'm like, okay, well, dude, listen, like you're already like 2 out of 3 years in, you might as well just, yeah. Also keep in mind that for most people, by the time you graduate, the stuff that you think is so cool right now is not cool anymore because
I know.
you're not going to graduate Cairo or physical therapy or whatever and walk into a workplace where you get to do the things in the same 2 to 3 years that you think is really cool, because what was really cool 5 years ago is not that cool anymore now.
That's right.
Concepts don't change, but like lots of things. People have their preferences and all. So I said, why don't you instead like these dudes and like the people you're talking about literally have taken more courses before they graduate than I took in 10 years because it didn't boom. It wasn't
That's right.
there.
That's
Like
right.
for me, I remember coming out of school, aside from like conferences, which I don't like. I'd rather go to something that's one topic. I don't want to hear you talk for an hour and then somebody else talk for an hour, unless it's all it's a story. It's a continue. I don't. So there was always those things. But then you could take the 3 M's: Mulligan, Maitland, and McKenzie. That's really all there was. Of course, Stanley Paris had an offshoot of that, and I probably at that time would have been more attracted to study with him just because um, I have been called a young Stanley Paris more than once, which I'm not sure is good or not. And then from the fitness side, again, you had the major conferences, and then you had the who I affectionately call the old man in a hat who's angry at the world. That was the only strength and conditioning seminar that was out there. This stuff didn't exist. Then Perform Better got into the 1 day learn by doing, and then things probably exploded. But I literally 10 years. I don't think I had these kids were taking more courses, and I'm like, dude, you there is something that you do need. You don't need this stuff. You could
Mhm.
say like it's not like I'm wrong, and I could be wrong. I'm not, but I could be. Uh, Dude, you got to pass your test. You can only fit so much in your brain. Like you
Exactly.
got to
Yeah.
pass your test at the end here.
Yeah.
And I think what the point you're getting at is ATCs can't take every course. Like I think they're only allowed to take like Mackenzie the first 2, but you can't take C.
Well, what
Uh,
happened? So I question that because
yeah, I don't get it.
When I first took SFMA, I wasn't allowed. I had to
As an
petition it
ATC.
as an ATC. When SFMA first came out, I was not allowed to
Mm-hmm.
take it.
Is that right?
And yeah, I talked to Lee and I talked to everybody. I said, hey, I would love to come to this course. Let me just audit it. And
Yeah.
they let me in, and now I see. I
Oh,
mean,
it's a free for all,
it's
free
a
for
free
all.
for all. It's a free for all.
which
So,
which
you
doesn't
know,
bother me. When it comes to those things, the stuff that bothers me is when it's clearly a manual therapy course. Like there's no, it's not like, okay, SFMA, here guys, let me show you. If you see this, maybe it's not. This is clearly, you are paying your money and you are going to get exposed to manual therapy technique. Put your hand here, not here, kind of stuff. Like,
hmm hmm
and oh yeah, we allow non manual therapists in our course, but
hmm
we don't certify them. What the fuck? What are you talking about like that, Matt? You think, and then we expect those students to abide by their practice act. Are you
right,
kidding me? You think trainer X, who's going to spend $12.95 to take your little manual therapy course,
right.
is going to not use it?
That's
Are
right.
you out of your? Yeah, I mean, that's silly. That's silly. And then of course when you have dinner with the instructor, they're like, yeah, I don't care. Like it's 12. That's another $12.95 for me. I don't care what they
Yeah,
do.
as
But of
long as
course,
you
God,
put that a
God
disclaimer in there,
forbid
right?
God forbid they say that in front of the room.
Right, right.
So that's
Well,
yeah,
you
that
teach class, right? So as I teach class, we come up with Rocket with the disclaimer because even like the certified personal trainer is not allowed to apply kinesiology tape, right? We have to put that in our disclaimer that it's up to you and your practice act, and we allow them to learn the process. I think they should be educated on what the process is, and now I'm just talking about tape or using an instrument assisted tool or a cup for the most part. But I don't know, Charlie. Do you don't think we should educate everybody? I mean, yeah, they're gonna. It's up to them and their practice act if they want to take that risk with that client and
yeah,
potentially get sued.
yeah,
I don't want to say, oh, you can't. You don't look behind the curtain. You can't do this technique. How about we say you can involve yourself and learn the material, but it's on you on your practice
yeah.
act. What do you think
I
about that?
would. I don't disagree with any of that. I would. Now I've never done it because I if my room is mixed, there's no, we don't get into anything like that. If I The closest I've ever gotten is that if I demonstrate a manual therapy, I'm just doing it, and then somebody will be like, Ethan will be like, hey, wait, can you show me that again? I'm like, no, I can't, because you know
Hmm
why? Because someone else will always be better at it than you. And the only reason I showed that to you is so that you know that what someone else can do with you. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I would like them to either be thrown out of the class at a certain point, meaning the first day is all the science, because if it's organic and it's true that you just want people to learn the information, but not be a part of basically what is a complicit act of breaking the law, well then your cost is this much, and you're only there for one day, or if it is a more of a money grab, which I have no issues with, if people try and make money, and their pillow is how they get to sleep on, they're not allowed to practice. They're not allowed to actually go through any psychomotor training. So
So how?
they can watch the other people do it. That way, the instructor and the brand is never a part of anything complicit.
Yeah, I mean that's safe, right? That's safe. I think in today's social media world and YouTube world, I mean, there is a plethora of
Yeah,
information
yeah,
out
can't
there
beat
where
it.
it's like
Can't win.
you can't win. So it
Well,
really falls on you and your licensure.
I gave up on that from like we're basically having a political conversation at the moment on a topic that is hopefully not terribly significant. Um, but I don't change how I feel about it. I just give up because I can't win. Like,
That's right.
and I don't think people are unintelligent to learn these types of things. That's not it at all. What I think, and actually what I feel very strongly about, which is basically one step beneath, I know that there's someone else better at it than them, and
Right.
they will never have enough repetitions. Because if you're let's say use the stuff that you're passionate about. So if you're gonna learn, if you're gonna get good at taping, the question that I would ask is, if your grandmother needs taping, and everybody in the world knows that the tape is going to make her elbow feel better, do you want to go to someone who uses the tape 100% of the time for 10 years, or do you want them to go to somebody else who uses it for 50% of the time because they're training people for the other 50%?
Right.
And to me, that's there's no the conversation's over at that point. because my thing is you can't get enough experience if you're practicing many things,
Hmm.
and that goes for me too. You know, I'm known as a lot. Some people don't even know I'm a physical therapist. Some people don't know that I train people, but I will never be as good as at one if I continue to separate my 12 months. I rationalize it by there are months where I'm only doing one thing. I don't even split up my day. But the point is that I'm guilty as charged. That's why I think I have a stance to say what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Um, but that's I give up. Like
Well,
it's
who owns? So if we get into that conversation, who owns a grade 5 minute? Who owns the mulligan techniques to teach? By where does athletic trainer fall in there? Athletic trainer gets caught
yeah
up in that all the time. We can't do manual therapies unless you take this certification course because we don't teach it in the accreditation curriculum. Or
here's the
grade five
thing.
manip is not within our scope of practice, right?
So if that's like a roundtable conversation, I don't know why, and particularly at that table is usually going to be people that are not certified athletic trainers and people that are in the position to argue against an athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for number one, the table's fucked up to begin with because you have people that do not know what the education is of an athletic
Right.
trainer. They'll
Yeah.
say they know, but if
Right.
you didn't go through it and you're against them, you're kind of not the you're not the best resource because I don't know why an athletic trainer would be. I mean, what 10, 15 minutes ago I just said that in my opinion the entry level education is the same for an athletic trainer as a physical therapist for a healthy orthopedic
Mm-hmm.
patient.
Right.
So if there's no, let's just make it simple. If there's no comorbidities, I don't know why an athletic trainer. I don't know why someone would claim that an athletic trainer is somehow not skilled in order to learn
Mm-hmm.
how to crack somebody's neck. I don't know that. When in fact I could pull somebody off the street and teach them how to crack somebody's neck. I mean that's not it's just a skill. It's just a
Right.
psychomotor.
Right.
Now to understand why, I think an athletic trainer they should know why. You went and took the SFMA course. That's a very viable, if not the premier global evaluation model. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you're allowed to, so it's not an evaluation piece. In fact, you could argue that an athletic trainer knows, God forbid, something terrible happens as a result of this technique. They know what to do because they're better trained in primary first aid than a PT.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't have that answer, and I'm curious. But I want to. But I don't have the ability to continue to listen when well, athletic trainers, it's not in their scope. Like they don't have the education. What are you talking about? Like I don't know. You know, if we talk about that specifically, you can manipulate somebody accidentally.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
yeah, I mean, you're not even trying to do it. So
Right.
that's
Right.
a I don't I remember my first
People want manual care, right? A patient wants to come, lay on the table, and get manual care. They think that's like the top of everything. When in fact, if we can get these people to move and exercise and do more motor control, maybe that's the viable option that's going to get that person to have better outcomes. But it's the mystique of manual therapy that people just float towards. Like, I'm going to go to this manual therapist because he's really good. I hear he's great and he does good techniques on the pelvis and blah, blah, blah. That mystique drives people to manual therapy. When in essence, it could be just poor function, lack of motor control that I've learned through SFMA, SFMA2, and everything else that I can apply an applicable program to that person.
yeah, I don't think you need any kind of degree if you're able to immerse yourself in an environment where you can make mistakes, suck, and then not suck anymore.
Right, right.
The thing is that based on rules, it's not that the person isn't intelligent enough. It's that if you don't have a certain level of education, you can't immerse yourself. Here's a silly example. I'm sure I can go to some third world country and learn how to do surgery. I'm pretty
Right.
sure I think I could. I got the checkbook. I could get that done.
Right.
Except I can't come back home and immerse myself in doing 18 surgeries 3 times a week, like a real surgeon, and make subtle mistakes that hopefully don't have significant damage so that I get good at it. It's not possible. It's not that I'm not intelligent enough to do it. It's that I can't be. So now, even if I thread the needle, I'm non-healthcare provider that learns how to tape, which I didn't even know would be illegal or not. It doesn't register to me. You know, putting tape on somebody is, to me, is not manual therapy. But whatever the rules are for that someone else decides, I don't. It's not that the person is incompetent to learn. They're incompetent to suck because they don't have enough repetitions,
Right.
to get good or bad. So basically, they're just like a talking head. Like they don't. If you don't like, for me, if I and I don't, that's why I rely on people like you. I don't tape every single person. Now, part of the reason is time and whatever my own issues, but I can't profess myself to be good at taping if I don't tape people all the time.
Right.
It's not possible. Like so here's someone I'm allowed to do it, and it just never had the resonance.
Right.
Um,
Reps.
uh,
I mean,
yeah,
you said it right there. Reps. I mean, it's like after you graduate athletic training, you still got to feel 1,000 more potentially torn ACLs to actually feel if there's some laxity in the ACL. You'd have good athletic trainers still won't feel a great ACL until they truly feel reps after
oh
reps
yeah,
after reps,
yeah, yeah,
unless
yeah,
it's completely gone and thing gaps wide open. But a 1 to 2 on an ACL, Lockman's or a jorts, like that's really hard to feel. You need a lot of reps.
yeah.
So,
And even then, the first real one you get, you don't, you're like, oh my, like you don't even know what it is.
right.
And I think that's true for a lot of things, but that's it's political. It's really and that gets dangerous because like but I also, at the end of the day, whatever, man. I know, like, if I teach a seminar that we don't even get close to that. Like there's not, because if I am going to teach something that in my opinion alone, is not, I don't want someone doing for my own reasons, we just don't do it. We just don't get into it. Like, and if it means I make less money, then that's fine. Like I'll be fine.
Right.
But that's yeah, I don't. And I would challenge, these folks that do it. Just be like, non-healthcare providers. You get 10 hours. You get day one and 2 hours of day two, and then we're going to take a break, and you will be, that your seminar is over.
I like that.
Uh,
That's
I
clean.
mean,
I like that.
it's
Yeah.
and if somebody doesn't like it, I'm sure they'll find something else
Yeah.
that can wet their whistle, like whether it's YouTube or some
Right.
other, because
I mean,
everybody just
I equate that to jujitsu, right? People are learning the most advanced jujitsu techniques right now that they don't have the range of motion in their hip to try some of these jujitsu techniques. That's why these
yeah
guys are getting so injured. It's like, you should not be learning that. We can learn, you can educate yourself on how to defend this, but this is not the technique you're going to be learning for the first couple of years. Whereas
yeah
people are just going crazy over jujitsu techniques because they come out every week. The new jujitsu technique that's inverted on the back of your neck, compressing your cervical spine, and you need so much internal external hip rotation. You just don't have it. You don't have the baseline of movement to even be in these precarious positions. Why do you
uh,
think you should be learning them? You know what I mean?
so
It's kind
so
of the same
uh,
idea.
do people know that you were black belt way before jujitsu was cool?
I don't know.
I don't know if people, you don't know if people know that. So
I
so
don't know.
so you're obviously highly credentialed, and you were rolling, and of course we have discussed my opinion of jujitsu because it's cheating in my opinion, because as a collegiate wrestler, your moves are dangerous,
uh,
so you can't do it. I think I told you this. The In college, the heavyweight, he could do, I forget what it was called. So in jujitsu it's called it's like this one. What's the
Kimura.
is it,
It's called
okay?
Kimura. Yeah.
So in wrestling it's called a key lock.
Right. Right.
So he could do it so fast that, like, it basically feels like your arm is gonna break, and then he lets go,
Right.
and the referee didn't even know he was doing it most of the time.
Like wrist
So
control, right? He can have wrist control and be in that Kimura position. It puts a lot of crank into
oh,
IR of your
he
shoulder.
he was he
You know.
was he was he was killing motherfuckers. Like he would, and then like not the athletic director, but one of the faculty. We didn't have that many faculty. She said that if you do it again, like, you're gonna get, expelled or something. So what happened? All right.
Yeah, I think
No.
when people call me, it takes away my
Oh,
my deal. So
you gotta
uh,
get off dial-up, man. You gotta get Wi-Fi.
I thought I was on Wi-Fi. Yeah,
So
so
what?
go back to yeah.
Yeah. So is jujitsu allowed right now in California? Where does that fit into all these restrictions that California still has? How's it really? So I'm allowed to go like nose to nose with you, but I can't be in the same gym. It's
Oh man, a lot of gyms have gone outside. A lot of people are training undercover. We know that's happening. My
yeah,
gym
yeah,
got popped. I went to another gym, it got popped. Uh, then the gym owner is saying, "Listen, I'm losing just so many people. They're losing so much business. They're willing to take the risk and take whatever hit that the health department's going to
yeah.
give them. We're going to host PANS. PANS, which are one of the biggest tournaments of the year, is now going to be held in Florida next week. So Florida is the place to go because they're opening
Yeah,
up. So they're
yeah.
hosting PANS, and registration is through the roof. People want to fight. So I'm not going because I'm busy, but I'm sending a whole medical team over there. So it's going off. There'll
So
be more than
so
3,000 competitors.
talk about that a little bit to bring this ATC and jujitsu. So one of your businesses is because you've got the connections in jujitsu for being around for 20 30 years. So you have a contract through your company that you provide ATC type services. That's what it is?
That's exactly right. So we
Yeah.
provide medical coverage for the IBJJF and the NABJJF, which are two of the probably larger premier federations in jiu-jitsu within the states.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your company works even more outside of California. You'll go everywhere, or other
It
people.
depends. Yeah, my base is typically California and Southwest and Northwest. But what I'll do is I'll just do a relationship with I know so many ATCs now. I'll call ahead to the college they want to host the event at. That hey,
Yeah.
I need 4 ATCs. This is what it is. It's basically mat side athletic training, and then I have my whole P&P manual. I said if you could follow my policies and procedures manual, that would be great. Here's what the pay is. Make sure you have your insurances, and boom, boom, boom. So you know
Yeah.
athletic training, that when the federations came here, IBJJF is the Brazilian federation that came here. They didn't know. I basically asked, hey, I want to compete at your tournament as a blue belt. I'll provide you medical coverage if we could trade for registration fees. They're like, well, what's medical coverage? I'm like, oh shit, okay, well this is what I do,
They didn't even
and
know.
they had no clue, right? So they're winging it, right? People want to
Yeah.
fight, so I said, I'm going to set up on the side of your mats here. I got a table, a cooler, and a bunch of medical supplies. If people bleed or dislocate their arm, I'll do the best I can. Let me in, you know? So that's how it started. That was 1998.
Yeah.
And, it just went from 4 mats for 4 hours, 5 hours to, Masters Worlds is the biggest tournament in the world. It's at Vegas for 4 or 5 days. And you're talking, 25 mats. So I need to have a team of about 20 athletic trainers and physical therapists to cover all those days. So
Yeah. No, that's
busy.
fantastic. And
Yeah.
it's a great example of in my opinion, of a like a business growth strategy. Okay, I'm an ATC, but I'm not just gonna be an ATC and try to find this job. I'm gonna be because I'm in jujitsu. I'm gonna be known as the
That's right.
ATC in all of jujitsu, and that probably is you, right? Like that
Well, that's
is
right. I
that
mean,
fair? Yeah,
I hope so. I wrote my whole dissertation on the epidemiology of musculoskeletal injury in jiu-jitsu, right? I took my data on these jiu-jitsu tournaments to
yeah,
suggest what are risk factors here between men and women, what joints are being, more dislocated or broken than others, and blah, 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 blah. So I've done a lot of research. I've published a lot with this, peer and non-peer, and I've been around the sport and I do the sport. So I'm in a good fit right there. Actually, I
yeah.
got hired. I was going to tell you this. I got hired last year as a expert witness on a murder case in Canada
Mm.
for somebody who got caught in a rear naked choke and ended up killing the person. So they found me through Google Scholar and said, hey, you do jujitsu, you're a black belt in jujitsu, you have a PhD in, you wrote your dissertation on jujitsu. You're the guy. We're gonna fly you over here. So I sat on the stand for 2 days and just got absolutely wrecked by just wrecked. I don't know if you sat on the stand for this expert witness stuff, but I got wrecked. But it's great
I've
experience. Great
never
experience.
I've never been on the stand, and part of the reason is because of the somewhat what someone else will decide, not me, the level of public figure that I carry.
Mm-hmm.
So and the assumption is that I also don't have a terminal degree, so like a PhD would be considered higher than a DPT. But I've been involved in cases where I'm doing the same thing, just not on the stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's something like where sometimes whether it's some of my business mentors like Tom Plummer is like you want to be the niche, like the more niche you can get, meaning you want to do this and then you're going to do it only for this group, and then it's only going to be that age of that. So the next thing you know, you are the physical therapist or the trainer for 50 to 55-year-old men who do jiu-jitsu. That's it. And that's
Right.
all you do. And
Right.
these people will travel all over and pay whatever you say, when you build that gimmick, if you will. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, it sounds like a better gig than me. I still do classic athletic training for these events where you're mat side for 12 to 14 hours, 4 days. Bro, those days are like,
I
man, you're talking
I ain't done
44,
that.
40. Oh
Man,
man.
I haven't done that since college,
But
where
here's the thing, you want to do reps. I mean, I can't tell you how many, real sports. I mean, the sports medicine doctors who are doing their, route with their entry levels in sports medicine to become a doctor. They come to us because we see it. You want to spend 12 hours on the mat, you're going to see a lot of ACLs, dislocated shoulders, mandible dislocate. You're going to see the shit rather than just football, which you may see one ACL. You're going to see six today. You know what I mean? So it's a really good experience. A good experience.
yeah. No, that's you ever put a jaw back in place?
Yeah, I have.
Oh man, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I'd be afraid because it's a condyloid joint. Like I don't want to mess with. So like in American football, like all right, you ready? I'm gonna try twice. The third time we don't get it done, we gotta go. Look over there, bang. You can do the thumb because the thumb is like the jaw. I don't mess with that. It's
you got a guy coming out. He got rear naked choke, so he tucked his chin to block the choke. So pushed his chin posteriorly, brought out those joints, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, I could run out on the mat. He's like, oh. I'm like, I don't see anything going on here. And I'm like, holy shit, he's totally tinting right here. So gloved up, went in the jaw, distraction with the inferior traction, and it popped back in. It was so loud. And the guy said, oh, thanks, man. I feel good, man. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I never tried that before. But, here's the thing is I get ridiculed. People, I'll post something on Instagram. People say, you're not an orthopedic surgeon. I said, listen, these people, I have one shot. And just like you said, I have one shot. If there's crepitus, I don't fuck with it, right? If it looks, really, really linear and really just angled, I fuck with it. I'll go for it, right? And I've been really successful over many, many years with relocating joints, saving people a lot of money, right? And they'll stay, and I'll check their CSM and make sure they're good. If they're not, I'll refer them out. But if you can get it in within 10 to 15 seconds, and I'm there that fast, it goes in so much easier. You know that shit spasms within 30 minutes. It's so hard to get back in.
I have found in my experience at that type of task is much more limited than yours. If it's a condyloid joint, I don't go because now I got four chances to screw it up, versus other joints where it's only two chances. It's only one right top and bottom. You just yank it or a shoulder because the shoulders. I've done that. But I always say to the person, I said, listen, I'm not going to try this for 10 minutes. Like so you okay with me trying? And of course you just ask and, and they're never going to say no. They want their shoulder back into place. But I wouldn't mess with an elbow. There's too many. Well, there's three major joints, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 ways to screw it up. So
yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I definitely take some risk there, and luckily I'm in California, which there's just no rules. It's like
you don't exist,
cowboy.
right?
No, we don't.
You don't exist. That's it.
So I'm taking a suture class. I'm taking a suture class next month through Rocky Mountain University. I'm like, I'm going to suture. I'm going to do everything I want.
I have to make that decision. I may not choose to get licensed in California when I come out there because that's part of my business plan. Because now I would probably still get tagged for deception because people would know I'm a physical therapist, even if it was not in any marketing media or anything like that. So like I'd probably lose. But basically, if I never said I call myself a rehab specialist or an ATC, because ATCs don't exist in California. You can
non-licensed.
You can do whatever. Like you can do whatever. You can open up a store. You can do whatever you want. but for me, I could just say I'm an ATC, which I mean anybody could say that because it doesn't exist. So,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
um, but I think I would still lose if somebody wanted to screw me over because I would be it would the legal definition would be deceptive. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to deceive you because I am a physical therapist not licensed in the
Hmm.
state.
Right.
But I don't know. But I don't know. In a lot of ways I am the radar, but in other ways I'm very much under the radar. So it's
Yeah. I mean, people are vying for licensure in the state. Uh,
no,
I know that's what
you
I
don't
said.
ever.
That's what I
Trainers,
say. Like,
personal trainers
why?
want license. What are you stupid? Like
I
you don't
know.
want so you want somebody to tell you what you're not allowed to do anymore.
Well, they all
Like
want a
wait,
code, right? They all want a code. So everyone's vying for the dollar. So if I can do my ICD, what's ICD 10 codes now as an athletic trainer, everyone's vying for the dollar. Where athletic trainers are basically,
yeah,
they
but
can't. So
now that's up to the insurance company. Like you could get licensed. It doesn't mean the insurance company is going to accept you as a provider. Like that
right,
doesn't.
right,
Man, I don't get that part.
yeah,
I don't understand that
yeah. I would
because
rather have the freedom.
basically someone is telling you what you can and can't do,
Hmm.
and then other professions start, and it happens at multiple levels. Like the for me it's more about dry needling, where some states you can, some states you can't. This is obviously becoming continually political. So I don't get involved in this. Like I'm not a part of the APTA. I'm not a part of the NATA. Like, I don't give them my money because I don't like what they do with it. So I never really like participate in these things because everybody's screwing over everybody. So it's like it's okay for you to do it to them, but if they do
That's
it
right.
back to you, yeah, that's bullshit. So I don't.
Yeah,
That's why I
no,
don't get involved.
yeah,
Like so, physical therapists they get mad if an orthopedist doesn't want them to have direct access, but
right.
they'll be very quick to hold down an ATC. Like who are you to be God? So I
Yeah,
don't get.
right. Yeah.
So when it comes to dry needling, um, it was they you get this letter because I guess if you're licensed, you got it. It had nothing to do with APTA, and all you had to do was hit one button, and all the senators' emails populated into an email. So it was like I really don't have any excuse to not do this. Okay, so here's what I typed. I said, blah blah blah. I'm a physical therapist, etc. There's two issues that I think should be considered. Number one, um, this is um, to not discuss that the Asian medicine providers um, are more concerned of physical therapists taking their market share. I think is terrible. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, don't deny that this is about market share because as a physical therapist, I absolutely am trying to take their market share. I absolutely want, and people should have the option to get a needle for one reason versus the other reason. That's absolutely what's happening, and we should be talking about that. And if you're going to question somebody or interrogate someone and ask them, well, is this really about money, or do you really think a physical therapist isn't safe? Which is ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
It's particularly if you have a certain amount of hours, etc. So that was the one thing, and then I hammered him, where I said I learned to dry needle in 2009, where I was the lead physical therapist for an organization called the United States Marine Corps Special Operations Command. That's where I
Okay.
learned to dry needle. Where, as you know, to be a physical therapist in the United States military, you have to hold a state licensure, but it doesn't matter where. So the rules don't matter. The rules are all off the board. I like to think I'm right. Physical therapists are like almost above the doctors. So like in the Marine Corps, it's the Navy, so they're called corpsmen. Corpsmen and physical
Right.
therapists are the primary people. Um, you call the doctor when you need it. So I went on to say, I learned to do there, and my license in the state of New Jersey allowed me to have that role, and I dry needled many men and women that allow us to have this very conversation on email and allow your caucus to investigate these types of questions. I would like you to consider, or at least answer, how come it's okay for me to dry needle men and women that allow us to have this country, but I'm not allowed to needle Ethan in my office. Maybe we could talk about that. Thank you. And that's I don't remember what happened. Because in New Jersey it seems to go back and forth. So I just don't worry about it. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
I think a lot of people don't. I don't know if Sue Falsone's allowing. Oh, well, she's an athletic trainer. I think she's allowing athletic trainers to come
Well,
take
she's
her
a
tri neon
PT.
test. She's a
Oh, she sure
PT.
does. Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
sure
allows
does.
PTs.
I
Yeah,
was shocked.
yeah,
I was shocked at that. Not because I don't believe athletic trainers should be allowed to do, except I'm pretty sure you're not going to be getting away with a 36 gauge needle on a 310-pound man. That was ludicrous. So we did not use that those people that had that training, and we won't ever again.
right,
If you're not aware, a 36 gauge needle you could probably crush in your hand. So to try to put that through the spine of NFL lineman, probably you don't know what the hell you're doing. So
right,
it's
right, right.
anyway. So what hey what do we got on here? Last one. What did we just see on Facebook? What was the Viper Room, huh?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
So before,
I've walked by it, but I ain't about to go into the place like that.
oh man, it was called the Central before that. What made the Viper Room popular was River Phoenix died out in front of the front door of that place. If you remember River
Okay,
Phoenix,
that's
But
fantastic.
yeah. Well, I've always been a rock and roller. I've been playing guitar since I was 10, and music has always been my first love. And, I tried to become a rock and roller, rock and roll star. We got signed to a label, made a CD. We followed radio play through the Midwest states. We're on the road a lot and didn't pan out. And I went back to school. That's what happened with me. So, I had
Yeah,
kind of two lives. I had that rock and roll life and I got some great stories, not for camera. And then I got this whole sports medicine life. I basically, I quit college to follow this dream because we got this label and it didn't pan out. So I went this route. So I still play, you see me, I still play my guitar every day. I love to rock out. So
but
that's some
I
old shit right there.
that was I'm like the Viper Room. That's like some of the old clubs in New York City that you hear about in rap songs. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, we played the Whiskey, the Roxy. You play the whole when you're playing those scenes. You play the whole Hollywood scene.
yeah,
Whiskey, the Roxy. That's what the Doors played the Whiskey. Go Go, and the Roxy was all the Gazaris, all those hair bands. I mean, it's famous for those areas. Famous.
man,
So
not my jam. I don't know. I was just very amused because that's like a place that you see in the movies. Like
yeah,
when I'm driving around LA, you come to a stoplight, you look up and like, oh my God, that's a real street. Like
yeah,
all the
right.
like, when I had to go from Westwood into the beach, you would go over Bundy. So
Yeah.
like for me, like Bundy, oh my God, like this is where it happened. Except Bundy is like this the whole length of the
Right.
405, but it's
You could turn
yeah,
right
it's
off Bundy and go see OJ's house and that whole OJ
yeah, yeah,
chase.
yeah. Oh
People watch
man,
that shit. So.
or like the Badlands is a road, right?
Badlands for
It's right at Century City to get on the highway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
I
know.
think
When
it
I
is
Is that right?
because the navigation said turn right on Badlands,
Okay.
and it's like all these
Okay.
things that you only see in television is they're actually real. So
That's funny. That's funny.
yeah. All right, man. Well, you asked me the what the topics were, so I said just two dudes talking because we
I
usually
love it.
get together at least once a year, and
Yeah.
that didn't happen this year. So
Yeah.
I've been using these especially to catch up with folks on the West Coast that I haven't seen in a while. So
Yeah.
this was
Super
this
honored
was
to
good.
have, man. It's fun to follow you. It's fun to follow your fiance if you guys ever get married with this whole COVID thing. But
Well,
follow.
we're technically married, but
Okay.
there's been no party. There's been no reception. No
All right.
reception. Yeah, you got
Allie's fun to watch.
yeah, she's awesome. It's
Yeah.
very, very awesome. So,
Right on, man.
all right,
Right on.
man. Well done, man. We'll you know where to find me when you need me. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right, man. Bye bye.
See you.